My name is Andrea Cromeyer, and this is my first lab for Physics 2. So to introduce, the purpose of this lab was to determine the excess electric charge on objects and understand the properties of charge and electricity. To give a preview for the results, the tape had a net charge of negative 9.41 times 10 to the negative 9 coulombs, meaning that it was charged negatively, indicating that there were excess electrons. To understand the fundamental physics principles I observed during this lab, first of all, we need to understand Coulomb's law, which is a law that quantifies the force exerted by a charged point, the source, upon another charged point being the surrounding. And we can define it by the formula below and this diagram, which represents the forces that two charges exert on each other, given by the location vectors. So the method I used was to make a U-tape by quickly pulling the tape off a base tape. And then I made sure that it was negatively charged by rubbing a plastic pen, meaning that the tape should repel. And then I repeated steps 1 and 2 one more time so that there were two charged tapes. I placed one tape above another by using two books. And then I lifted the bottom tape closer to the top one until it repelled by lifting. Then I recorded the distance between the tapes. The assumptions I made for the physical model was that the tapes repel because they are negatively charged, and that they will repel with equal magnitude. Then the top tape will float with no net Y force, meaning that the electric force due to the bottom tape counteracts gravity. The experimental data I obtained was, first of all, the data recorded was the tape length was 0.13 meters, the tape width was 0.019 meters, and the vertical distance was 0.025 meters. Then I calculated the tape weight, which is negative 1.28 times 10 to the negative 3 newtons. The surface area was 2.47 times 10 to the negative 3 meters squared, and the number of atoms I approximated was 2.47 times 10 to the 17 atoms. Further calculations include Coulomb's law, which is negative gravity, by the assumption I made earlier, meaning that this was the vector obtained. Then the overall tape charge, as I stated in the introduction, was negative 9.41 times 10 to the negative 9 coulombs. To calculate the excess electrons, I divided the tape charge by the electron charge, which gave me 5.88 times 10 to the 10 electrons. And then to calculate the ratio, I divided total atoms by excess electrons, and this was the ratio given. For the computational model, I first made assumptions, which was that the tapes are point charges and the tapes have equal charge. We can use tape lengths to approximate mass and number of atoms. Tapes atoms are arranged in a perfect lattice, and other forces acting on the tapes are negligible, such as air resistance. First of all, I included the constants. Most of these were the ones that I calculated beforehand. Then I moved on to the actual calculations, which were all these. Again, I mentioned this in the method and experiments part. And then for the graph, I made sure to use a defining function in Python in order to create the computational model. And these were the results I got. These results are the same that I got from my experimental and observed data. And then this was a model I got. So this was what we're actually seeing. Again, the tapes acted as point charges, and we can see that the force is equal in magnitude, and we can see the force of gravity acting on the tape above. So to reflect. So what if the electrons had positive charge and protons had negative charge? So given that the experiment revealed excess negative charge, meaning there are more electrons than protons, the tape would now have excess positive charge. And all observations, meaning that the repulsion of the tapes and hence the direction of the force would remain the same. Well, the direction would actually change, but the magnitude would remain the same. Why is it important to handle the charged tapes as little as possible? Well, since the charged tapes hold excess negative charge, every interaction means a potential loss of electrons. That also meant that the books I used, I couldn't use like plastic or any other source that could possibly mean a loss of electrons because it would tamper with the results. And then the tape would become neutral and the experiment would just not work. Thank you.